Hi, welcome back. Let's make this half scale leaded stained glass window that is inspired by a Frank Lloyd Wright window. So here are your supplies, some blue tape, that painter's tape. I got this from the dollar store, so it's a little bit wider than you really need, but you'll need that. You'll need some of this lead tape, actually. And I have that in the description because that's kind of an unusual product. So I could only find it on Amazon. A little squeegee thing. You're going to need some acrylic, and I am not very good about actually applying those dust covers to the kits that you can buy. So I just take the acrylic and use it for other things. I do in the description have a source on Amazon. That's a pretty cheap source, but you could also take this out of maybe a picture frame that you're not using. So that's an option. You do need, this is a plexiglass cutter, is what it's called. And you'll need that to cut the acrylic, and you'll need your metal ruler for that as well. I'm new to this, so I'm going to figure out how to post my pattern for this. The size on that is 10 by 3.3 centimeters. If you use little tweezers, these are plastic. I'm going to try to avoid using them, but the reason that they're plastic ones, or if you can get those tweezers that have the rubber coverings, is because the acrylic scratches very easily. So if you have to use tweezers, it's much better, okay, to use that. Cutting something to write with, and then in the description, I chose these Suncatcher paint pens. There are certain colors I think you can actually get at the dollar store, but I'm not entirely certain what colors, because when I went to go check, they didn't have it in stock. But I know that they do sell sun catchers, is what those are called. For little kids, it's a plastic. Looks a little bit like stained glass, and they can color it in and then hang that in the window. It was really cute. So this is what I chose, but some kind of sun catcher paint. The glass paint is not what we want. This is thinner. Okay, it's more, it's watery. It does take a while to set, but this is really what we want. Okay, so I think that should cover it for your supplies. So the first thing we're going to do, and get this stuff out of the way, is we're going to cut the acrylic. Now, preferably you have this is some sort of wax paper type of thing on one side and plastic on the other side, or at least one of your sides is protected. If it's not protected on at least one side, consider using the blue tape. And it's so that, you can see where I missed a little bit on my cut. It's not the greatest cut in the world, and it will, that's okay, but it'll protect that inside as much as possible. So consider doing that. I, in fact, will probably put even another layer on here. So this is the first thing we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and, like I said, measure 10 by 3.3. Hold it down just where the frame would be. Now here's this lead tape. So it flattens out if you run your finger across it. And this side is just has like a wax paper. And you pull that off and it sticks. So this works great to make leaded glass. It's quite literally lead. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and cut this a little bit longer than my 10 centimeters, because remember I said you want to take the lines out beyond the frame. So cut it a little bit more than that. It can be cut with the scissors first. I want to take my fingers, like I was sort of showing you before, I want to purposefully flatten this out to make things easier. Now, it's really, really easy. I hope that was on camera. I'm not used to this little one. All I'm doing is I cut that leaded tape and I'm flattening that out. Okay. So the next thing that I need to do is somewhere on my cutting board that's out of the way, I'm not going to accidentally hit my light. I want to flatten this out nicely and take my metal ruler and hold that metal ruler down and check to see if my if my leaded tape is straight. I want to see, I want to make sure that it is as straight as possible, because when I go to cut, I don't want wavy lines. So this looks fairly straight, but just to make sure, I'm going to go ahead and tape it down on the end, one end, because I'm going to tape both ends in a minute. I'm going to tape that down, and I'm gonna go this way so I can. Okay, yeah, all right. So, okay, so I was right on that. It's pretty straight. Just the very ends, flatten that out nicely. Just the very ends need to be taped down because I'll be removing the tape. Stretch that out a little bit just so it's flat. Don't go pulling it really long. You'll pop that covering, the adhesive covering off the back. Okay. So now what I want to do, and this is just, you just have to use your gut on this. There are, if you notice, there are thicker lines and there are thinner lines. And that is definitely on purpose. The frame part is the thickest, but you'll notice that line, these two lines going all the way down are thicker, okay? I could take out my measurement and I could use my magnifying thing here, and I would wind up saying, oh, well, that line is about 1 millimeter wide. So you're like, what? What is this middle one going to be? And that answer is as small as you can cut, as narrow as you are able to cut. So that means the first cut, it really doesn't matter which one I do first. But I'm going to start up here at the top with this thick line. And I'm going to go ahead and get a feel for what is a millimeter. If I get a feel for that, then I can repeat this. you know, and just eyeballing this, what I have here is actually approximately 1 millimeter. I want to adjust in case something has slipped. I'm going to take my X-Acto, which you can kiss this goodbye after you're cutting these, I can tell you that. I want to cut to the edge, even where the tape is. Okay, kind of find the edge. Hold down that ruler very carefully. Go on down. So that's pretty thick. I can always double check. I want to check and make sure it cut all the way through. And as I lift this up, I can pull it out very, very carefully, you guys. Try not, I'm pulling out from underneath that tape. Try not to stretch this. It will contract, and in some places that means that it will open up a seam after it's finished going back to its original shape. So we want to really try to be careful about that. Now this looks very, very thick. Let me see how well, if I look here, it's not too bad. Now I can use this length for more than one. So I want to try to not put my fingers all over everything, although it sticks pretty well. So I want to go ahead, follow that pattern, going beyond where the frame is, doing the best I can. Hold it down on the edge where the frame is. Get that nicely attached. Okay, this one. Now it's going to be a lot of turning and so forth. I don't want to use my X-Acto, and even this I want to use carefully, not to make a bunch of scratches that may or may not show depending on where you're displaying this. So I look at this, I get a feel for, did I put that on straight? I can use my squeegee. My squeegee is very helpful for a couple of things. And it looks like I did pretty well. At this point, I just take my finger, and I'm pressing that down. So all I'm doing is pressing it firmly down. And you'll see that the leg sort of, it flattens out as well. It may be not obvious that it was a little bit puckered when we cut, but now when we do that, we really can see how nice and flat that is. And what I want to do with the big ones, and once again, this is a little bit hard to see. Some of these lines I overlap, but the larger lines, when dealing with two large lines, I want to try very hard not to leave a lump if I decide to overlap it. Okay, so how do I make sure that doesn't happen? Well, I can do a couple of things. I can say, hey, I don't want to overlap it, okay, because I went and did this one first and now I'm doing this one and I don't want to overlap it. That honestly is the best case scenario. What I'm doing temporarily is overlapping it a little, and I need to get this aligned with where I'm stopping here. Don't worry that it slightly overlaps those circles. We're going to worry about that later. Okay. I'm going to leave that overlapped, but because for right now, but because I do not want that to stay that way, that's my personal choice. I don't know how much this is going to show. It's easier to leave everything overlapped. Full disclosure. But I can still flatten this out like this and take just the edge of my finger or fingernail and run that end up as nicely as possible. Then I'm going to let that lead relax a little, because if I have accidentally stretched this lead at all, like I said, a seam will show. So what I'm doing here is I'm overlapping it, letting it relax, letting it, if it needs to contract, let it do it before I trim it. Okay? All right. So moving right along, now is time for me to be very ginger about using my X-Acto. This is where I need to stop, right here. So I go ahead and take my X-Acto, and I'm going to just press down and kind of wiggle this back and forth, pull the lead away. Okay. So I started this for you. I had started and then I was unhappy with the effect. But like I said, start in a place where it's, you can trim and it won't be as obvious. I am going to overlap a little because I'm going to follow the actual circle, even though it's cut off by other pieces. And I'm just holding my finger in place, moving little by little around my shape, and adjustments can be made. I'm just holding down enough to get this to go around. So now I want to pick a nice place to trim. I'm not going to lift and trim. I'm going to leave it overlapped with itself, meaning I'm not going to trim each side. I want to see how clean the surface is. I'm looking for hairs. What I'm doing. Okay, so here's my original. And I just sort of picked where I wanted my colors. I looked at the original online. I did the best that I could, and I did that. Looks like my little tip has come off. No worries. I'll put a little bit in my thing here. Use a paintbrush. And I'm going to just very carefully go inside the lines. And I really want to sort of pull this in there. Using a generous amount. You'll notice that it seems to pull away from the edges. and you just need to be persistent, working quickly and carefully. You don't want to get it on the lead if at all possible, but you're going to try to keep it from pulling away when it dries. So, but what you have after waiting is really a cute little stained glass window. So I really liked how this turned out, given how small it is. I'm going to use it in a miniature in a house that's not all Frank Lloyd Wright or anything like that. I have a window that I really would like to hang that in. So that's what I'm going to do with mine. You could hang this on a wall with a light behind it, or, like up here, in a window, leaning up against the wall. A lot of different options for that. So anyway, there were a lot of technical difficulties for this one. I'm hoping that you were able to see everything correctly, and that you would enjoy the end result for your window. And please subscribe and take care.